It is truly my pleasure to welcome you all to this second conference on child well-being, facilitated by the President's Foundation of the Well-being of Society. This year's focus on access to justice for vulnerable children is a topic of increasingly urgent concern across our communities, our countries, and our regions. Justice, in its essence, involves the fair and impartial treatment of all persons. It is the foundation of our laws. It is the guardian of our democracies, and it is the safeguard of well-being for present and future generations. In matters of justice, there can be no difference between the access which is available to adults and the access available to children. Issues concerning the treatment of people of any age, ethnicity, ability, or background are the same. Indeed, a person's effective access to justice is fundamental to the sustainability, well-being of the whole of society. Access to justice is a cross-cutting human right and basic need that must be met for us to continue nurturing and protecting the dignity of all. However, the right to access to justice still seems, in the minds of many, disconnected from the realities faced by children. Many policymakers, institutions, and organizations seem unwilling or unable to empower the young and to open appropriate access to processes of justice. This applies to all children, but even more so for those who live in precarity and vulnerability. Many children around the world are at increased risks of vulnerability. According to data from UNICEF, unless we tackle the inequity and discrimination experienced by children, then in 2030, there shall be 167 million children living in extreme poverty. 60 million children denied access to primary education, and 69 million children under the age of 5 whose very lives will be needlessly lost. Only a small number of children who face oppression, prejudice, and injustice are empowered to come forward and seek redress. Even fewer manage to obtain effective outcomes. The harsh reality is that most vulnerable children are not aware of their intrinsic right to justice. They are not empowered to make decisions in their best interest. They are not nurtured in their dignity and the recognition of their active agency. They are not empowered to enjoy a sense of control over the direction of their own lives. We must be guided in our efforts by the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, to which all nations except the United States of America are signatories. We must follow the CRC's emphasis on the need for powerful guarantees which make sure that every child is able to enjoy their human rights. If we do not take the guarantees and safeguards of the CRC seriously, then we are failing our children from enjoying their rightful freedoms. The Convention will remain inactive, and its full mandate will not be implemented. We need to walk the talk. It is often difficult for adults to access their rights. It is even more difficult for children to access effective justice. Access to the mechanisms of justice is often kept beyond children's reach. Therefore, we must strive to ensure that human rights violations, especially when they occur to children, are immediately addressed. We must endeavor to provide credible and active assistance to children, to make the best use of the resources available, and where these are lacking, to create child-sensitive processes which empower our children. When any child suffers from violence and abuse in their schools, homes, or communities, they are denied their full freedoms. I must add that this is particularly even more urgent when children are the victims of violent conflict across the world. The scourge of war, of systemic violence, and of deep-rooted oppressions continue to impede the realization of the Convention on the Rights of the Child from fulfilling universal child well-being. Let us also remember that justice is not simply an issue which concerns the courts of law. It is just as much about the ways in which professionals who work in the justice system interact with children. We must provide the necessary training for the police, for child protection services, psychosocial carers, and others to facilitate our united vision of a world in which children and young people have full access to justice. We must be vociferous in showing the media, parents, guardians, and civil society as a whole that children's involvement is essential in our efforts to ensure access to justice for all. Children and young people must be acknowledged as active and equal participants in creating more just societies. Above all, I believe it is our duty to ensure access to justice for the most vulnerable of our children. Where this access is lacking in our judicial and legal systems, we must be courageous and call for substantial structural reform and provide suitable resources. We must be voices for clarity, for respect, and for meaningful change in this important sector. It will take the combined strength of civil society, of academics and professionals, and the political will of our executive governments to reach this important objective. Together, we must create the necessary structures and resources to ensure that children, whoever they might be, to access effective justice. Access to justice for children can no longer be a gray area within our legal systems. We must do all that we can for children to understand, to use, and most essentially, to trust the legal systems that protect and facilitate their rights and their well-being. Children must know that when they need justice, it will not fail them. They should be aware that the legal process is readily available to them and that it is capable of delivering their best interests. Just as children are aware of the abuses of power, which unfortunately are part of our world, they must also be aware of the strength of the law, of justice, and of well-being, which is theirs by rights. The President's Foundation for the Well-being of Society believes that children and young people are the experts when it comes to their own experiences. The Foundation works tirelessly to achieve long-term initiatives in these areas across the Maltese Islands and even beyond. We believe that the ideas, the aspirations, and the needs of children must be listened to and acted upon. For this reason, the Foundation has set up a Children's Council and Young People's Council. These consultative councils are intended to support the Foundation in all its work. By facilitating these groups, we are creating a space where the contribution of children and young people can be shared with others and built upon. It is our responsibility as adults to create more opportunities such as these where children and young people can be heard. We must equip them with the knowledge which they need to aspire for a better future, to achieve their goals and to succeed in life. Let me conclude by affirming that access to human rights is a right in itself. Every child should have access to appropriate means by which to enjoy their rights and to address their important legal needs. We must work together to ensure that vulnerable groups are given our focused attention and receive equal rights and opportunities. Access to justice for children cannot remain a dream. It is a goal that we must achieve. Where justice is denied, where knowledge is lacking, where society allows domination, oppression, exclusion, or discrimination, then well-being can never be enjoyed. United in one purpose, let us continue to proactively promote, to nurture, and to develop access to justice for all our children and our young people. In this way, we shall share a powerful commitment to ensure the full dignity and the meaningful well-being of every member of our communities, our societies, and our world. Thank you.